They say the airport is where patience goes to die, but no one imagined the chaos one gate agent would unleash on a single morning. When Olivia stepped up to the counter, she was only trying to board her flight at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Little did anyone know that one dismissive, heartless shove, fueled by prejudice and arrogance, would change everything. Because behind Olivia's gentle smile lay a startling secret. Her husband was no ordinary businessman. He owned Sky Nova Airlines, the very carrier whose uniform this gate agent was disgracing. And once her husband got wind of it, the gates of karma would fling wide open. Olivia Carson had always loved the quiet hush of early mornings. She rose before dawn, savoring the stillness of her suburban Atlanta neighborhood as the sky slowly morphed from indigo to a soft pink. Her intention was simple: catch an early flight to New York, finalize a real estate deal that would help a local Atlanta non-profit secure new office space and be back by evening to celebrate her sister's birthday. Her neatly packed carry-on bag sat by the front door of her home, containing her usual travel essentials: a worn novel, her iPad for reading, e-documents, a small pouch of toiletries, and a comfortable change of shoes. Despite the corporate nature of her trip, she chose a soft beige sweater and black slacks, a combination that balanced professionalism with her desire for comfort on a plane. She stood at the entrance to her kitchen, scanning the counters to ensure she hadn't forgotten anything. Her phone buzzed, showing a text from her husband, Marcus Carson, who was traveling in Asia on business. He had left for Hong Kong the day before to meet potential investors for a new route expansion plan for Sky Nova Airlines. Marcus was known to most of the world as a charismatic CEO who had inherited a small airline from his late father and transformed it into a growing competitor in the aviation industry. To Olivia, he was the man who never forgot date nights, even if he had to hop on a plane from Beijing to make it home on time. Marcus text: "Good luck with the meeting. Let me know how it goes. Also call me if you need anything, especially with the flight. I set it up so you have the best seat, but if there's any glitch, let me know." His messages always made Olivia smile. She typed a quick reply, something humorous about not needing special treatment, then grabbed her suitcase and headed outside. The rideshare driver pulled up a lively jazz tune playing softly on the radio. The morning air in Atlanta was crisp, the city's skyline still lit by the remnants of nighttime. Olivia inhaled deeply, feeling a flutter of excitement. She had no clue that in a few hours she would experience one of the most humiliating moments of her life, an event that would rock her to her core, but also unleash a chain reaction that would leave everyone reeling. Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport was already abuzz even at this hour. Passengers lugged suitcases, families juggled strollers and carry-ons, and flight attendants hurried toward security checkpoints. The bleary-eyed morning travelers lined up at coffee shops, desperate for caffeine and a moment's respite before navigating the labyrinth of gates and terminals. As Olivia stepped into the arrivals hall, the magnitude of the airport's bustle hit her. She had traveled through Hartsfield-Jackson countless times before, but each visit felt like stepping into a swirling microcosm of different cultures and destinations. She marveled at the overhead monitors showing flights to Paris, Tokyo, Nairobi, Rio, and more. Today, her chosen airline was her husband's Sky Nova Airlines. Although Marcus had offered her various upgrades or perks, Olivia often declined them. She preferred to experience flights as any regular passenger would. It gave her honest insights into customer experience feedback that she would quietly pass on to her husband. Marcus ironically valued these undercover passenger moments, even more than official reports from staffers and managers. She approached the self-check-in kiosk for Sky Nova, typed in her booking reference, and smiled when she saw she had an automatic upgrade to business class. Marcus must have insisted. She checked her watch. She had ample time to pass through security and find her gate. Despite the heavy foot traffic, the security line moved smoothly. Airport employees directed travelers with measured urgency, ensuring the lines kept moving. Olivia placed her laptop and toiletries into separate bins, stepped through the body scanner without incident, and collected her belongings on the other side. She slipped her feet back into her black flats, adjusted her sweater, and proceeded toward the expansive concourse. It was 6:30 in the morning, and the overhead announcements of boarding calls, final calls, and gate changes melded into the consistent hum of the airport. Olivia's gate F12 was on the far side of the terminal. It was a bit of a walk, and she meandered past bookstores, souvenir shops, and a small kiosk selling freshly baked pretzels. The aroma made her stomach growl, and she considered grabbing a snack before heading to the gate. No, she decided better to reach the gate first and see what the boarding process looked like. But the short walk turned out to be anything but ordinary. In less than 30 minutes, her calm morning would erupt into a spectacle she never asked for, one that would expose deep prejudices and send shockwaves through the airline's management. Gate F12 was moderately crowded. Several flights left from this terminal around the same time, including Olivia's Sky Nova flight to New York. Passengers stood in clusters, young professionals, busy on laptops, families wrangling toddlers, and elderly couples quietly reading newspapers. The digital display overhead read Sky Nova Flight 276 to New York LaGuardia. On time. At the gate's podium stood a tall, stern-faced man with short, neatly combed hair. His name badge read Gerald Anderson, identifying him as a gate agent for Sky Nova. Next to him, a young woman in her mid-20s, wearing the same uniform, typed steadily into the computer, occasionally answering questions from passing passengers. Olivia hovered near the seating area, observing the scene for a moment. Typically, gate agents start pre-boarding announcements for first class or special assistance passengers before general boarding. She spotted a group of wheelchair-bound travelers waiting to board, so she expected the usual routine. As she found a nearby seat, she noticed a commotion near the desk. A passenger who appeared older and somewhat flustered was arguing with Gerald. Elderly passenger. "Sir, I'm telling you my hearing aid isn't functioning well. Could you please speak a bit louder so I understand if this is indeed the correct gate?" Gerald, raising his voice sarcastically. "This is Sky Nova Flight 276 to New York. Boarding has not started yet." Satisfied. He rolled his eyes and turned away dismissively. Several people around him exchanged concerned looks. Olivia frowned. Clearly, Gerald was short on patience. The elderly passenger, who was obviously embarrassed, gave a timid nod and scurried away. This unsettled Olivia. Marcus prided himself on exceptional customer service within Sky Nova. He believed every passenger deserved respect. She shook her head, thinking that perhaps the gate agent was having a bad day. Everyone had off moments. Still, she couldn't help but note his abrasive tone. Several minutes passed, and a mother with a fussy infant approached the podium to ask about early boarding. Gerald barked a brief response, telling her to wait until you hear your group. The mother retreated, flushed and anxious. Olivia decided to stand in line, wanting to see if her seat was confirmed or if there were any changes she should be aware of before boarding. The line crept forward, and she soon found herself face to face with Gerald. "Olivia, Good morning, I'm on flight 276 to New York. Just wanted to confirm I'm all set with my seat assignment. Gerald gave her a cursory glance, typed something into the computer, and spoke without even looking up. Gerald. You'll board when your group is called. Next, Olivia. Actually, Gerald cutting her off, ma'am, I said next. Step aside. A flush of embarrassment crept up Olivia's cheeks. She stepped to the side, feeling a mix of confusion and frustration. She was used to gate agents who at least offered a greeting or a polite direction. Instead, this man behaved as if she were a nuisance. Olivia contemplated letting it go. She had her boarding pass after all. But she was also aware that if this was how he treated people, especially elderly passengers or mothers with infants, then something deeper was at play. Still, confrontation was never her first instinct. She decided she would address it discreetly once she was on board, or later via a formal complaint. But fate had a different plan. Things would escalate far beyond a quiet complaint. Boarding began shortly after the minor encounter, but Gerald's mic announcements were curt and unfriendly. The mood at the gate soured with every new directive he barked out. First class and business class passengers were called along with families needing extra time. Olivia, having been upgraded, was among the first to queue. She observed how Gerald barely made eye contact with any passenger. He scanned their boarding passes as though they were trifling tasks interrupting his busy schedule. Olivia reached him again, offering a polite nod. Gerald boarding pass. She handed it over. This time he glanced more carefully at the seat assignment, noticing she was in business class. Something in his demeanor changed, perhaps annoyance, that she, a black woman dressed in casual attire, was flying in a premium cabin. She couldn't be certain, but there was a flicker in his eyes that suggested resentment or disbelief. Gerald, you sure this is your seat? He looked her up and down. Olivia's patience wore thin. Olivia, yes, it is. My husband booked the ticket, and I. Gerald interrupting again. Ma'am, please step aside. I need to confirm something with the system. He pressed a few keys on the computer, then gestured rudely for her to move away from the podium. Other business passengers streamed past their boarding passes, scanned without incident. Olivia felt her chest tighten with indignation. She tried to keep her composure. Olivia, is there a problem with my seat, Gerald? We have conflicting information on the reservation. I'm not sure if this seat belongs to you, or if you're trying something. That last phrase, if you're trying something, hit Olivia like a slap. Olivia, could you clarify? Before Gerald could respond, the young female gate agent next to him leaned over and checked the screen. Young agent softly. Sir, it shows she's on an upgraded seat, all paid for no conflicts. He ignored his co-worker, then turned to Olivia with a dismissive wave. Gerald, fine. Give me your ID again. Olivia fumbled in her purse, pulling out her driver's license, now feeling the stares of other passengers behind her. Gerald took an uncomfortably long time examining her ID, flipping it over as though looking for forgeries. Finally, he let out a huff. Gerald, it checks out. You can board now. Handing back the ID and boarding pass with a cold expression, he motioned for her to proceed. Relieved, Olivia started walking toward the jet bridge. However, before she could take 2 steps, she felt a sudden force on her shoulder. Gerald had shoved her aside, stepping forward to direct another passenger who was apparently more deserving of his time. The jolt sent her stumbling a few feet, almost losing her balance. A gasp rippled through the passengers lined up. Time seemed to slow as Olivia looked up at Gerald's shock and anger battling for control in her mind. Olivia. Did you just? Gerald, raising his voice. I told you to move aside. Don't stand in the way. The hostility in his tone was undeniable. Olivia's shock turned to outrage. She could physically feel her heartbeat pounding against her ribs. For a moment, she stood still, processing what had just happened. A gate agent, a representative of the airline, had shoved her. A wave of hushed voices spread among the crowd. A few passengers asked if Olivia was all right. Others shot disapproving glances at Gerald. Despite her anger, Olivia willed herself not to create a scene. She gathered her composure, lifted her chin, and walked down the jet bridge. Her mind reeled with confusion and simmering fury. This was utterly disrespectful and unprofessional, if not borderline assault. She vowed to address it once on the plane. The flight attendants inside would be more than capable of handling the issue, or at least informing a superior. Or so she thought. Little did she know this was only the beginning of a chain of events that would shake the entire gate area, and eventually the airline to its core. Inside the aircraft, a friendly flight attendant greeted Olivia and pointed her to the business class section, which was outfitted with plush, wide leather seats. Olivia slid into seat 3A, setting her carry-on in the overhead compartment. She took a few seconds to catch her breath and calm the tremor in her hands. It wasn't long before a flight attendant, noticing her unsettled expression, approached. Flight attendant FA1. Ma'am, is everything all right? Olivia forced a small smile. Olivia. I'm fine. But I think you should know the gate agent was extremely rude and actually put his hands on me. The flight attendant's eyebrows rose. FA1. Pardon me? He touched you, Olivia. He shoved me aside. Yes. I nearly fell. I'd like to talk to someone about it. Maybe a supervisor. The flight attendant exchanged a concerned look with a colleague, then nodded. FA1. I understand. Let me notify the cabin manager. We'll have someone come speak to you right away. Would you like some water or juice in the meantime, Olivia? Water would be nice. Thank you. As the flight attendant disappeared to fetch the water and find a higher-up, Olivia settled back in her seat, her mind racing. Should she text Marcus? He was in Hong Kong, probably asleep. She decided it wasn't worth waking him just yet. She wanted to handle it through proper channels first. She also considered her own sense of pride. She'd always prided herself on being capable and level-headed, so part of her wanted to see how the airline staff handled the issue without pulling rank. Within minutes, a cabin manager named Denise, an older woman with kind eyes, came to Olivia's seat. Denise. Good morning, ma'am. I'm Denise, the cabin manager. I heard there was a concern about a gate agent's behavior. Are you all right? Olivia explained the situation in detail, sparing no words about Gerald's hostility. Denise's face tightened in disbelief and concern. Denise. I'm so sorry you experienced that. That behavior is absolutely unacceptable. I promise we'll address it as soon as possible. Usually I'd contact the gate supervisor or someone on the ground, but we're already in the final stages of boarding. However, I will file an immediate report and we'll get to the bottom of this. If you want to escalate it, I can help facilitate that. Olivia. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't want anyone else to go through this. Denise nodded sympathetically, promising to follow up. She left to attend to the rest of her pre-flight duties, as the plane would soon push back. Still shaken, Olivia looked out the window, her thoughts spinning. After a few minutes, she heard a quiet commotion in the aisle. Turning, she saw none other than Gerald stepping onto the aircraft. He was apparently assigned to double-check boarding passes or address last-minute seat changes. Instantly, Olivia's tension returned. She watched as Gerald spoke to a flight attendant near the front of the plane, not realizing Olivia was seated just a few rows away. Her heart pounded. Would he see her? Would there be another altercation? Suddenly, a passenger from behind Olivia approached Gerald, his voice low but agitated. Passenger. Hey, I saw what you did at the gate. That was really not cool, man. She's a passenger, not some obstacle. Gerald dismissed him with a wave of the hand, glancing around the cabin arrogantly. Gerald, mind your business. Now where's the overhead for this bag? But the passenger didn't relent. Passenger. You can't just shove people. Do you know how easily she could file a complaint? Maybe even press charges. Gerald's face darkened. He turned, scanning the rows until his eyes landed on Olivia. For a moment, their gazes locked. She felt a jolt of apprehension, but refused to look away. She was determined not to cower. Gerald's sneer sent a cold wave through her. But then he turned away and continued down the aisle, ignoring the protesting passenger. Olivia exhaled slowly. The same question repeated in her mind. Who does this man think he is? Eventually, Gerald deplaned standard procedure for gate agents after final checks leaving the cabin to the flight attendants. The boarding door closed, and the aircraft pulled back from the gate. Olivia tried to focus on the upcoming real estate deal, reviewing documents on her iPad. Yet her mind returned repeatedly to Gerald's face, to the humiliating way he had shoved her. Across the aisle, a middle-aged business traveler, who had also been in line at the gate, caught Olivia's eye. She offered a sympathetic smile as though to say, I saw what happened. That was awful. Olivia smiled back faintly, feeling a little less isolated. During the safety demonstration flight, attendants performed their usual routines. Denise made eye contact with Olivia, nodding in a subtle show of support. It was a small gesture, but Olivia appreciated it. She had always believed that in moments of adversity, kind individuals could make a world of difference. As the plane ascended, Olivia's ears popped and she reached for a piece of gum in her purse. The engines roared, pressing her back into the seat. After a few minutes, the aircraft leveled off. Service in business class began shortly after. A flight attendant distributed warm towels and took drink orders. Olivia asked for orange juice, still feeling the need for something refreshing. She accepted the glass with a polite thank you, trying to steady her nerves. Though she had flown in premium cabins before, often with Marcus, the experience always felt a bit surreal. Seats turned into mini-offices or lounges with more legroom than one needed. Today, however, the usual comfort of traveling in style felt tarnished. Her mind was full of what had just happened. She decided it was time to send Marcus a quick message, though she'd keep it brief. She typed on her phone. Hey love, I'm on the plane now. Something happened with a gate agent. He was rude and actually pushed me. I'm fine, but we need to talk later. I love you. She hit send. Time zones be damned. He'd see it whenever he woke up. Feeling somewhat relieved, she set the phone to airplane mode and tried to focus on the tasks ahead. She had a meeting in Manhattan in just a few hours, and it required her best professional self. Still, a nagging voice inside her whispered that what happened couldn't stay contained. The disrespect and potential racism behind Gerald's actions weighed heavily on her conscience. She suspected that once Marcus heard, he would move mountains to ensure the situation was remedied. She just had no clue how big those mountains would be. The flight passed relatively smoothly. Olivia alternated between reviewing her real estate contracts and letting her thoughts wander to the humiliating incident. Lunch was served grilled chicken with a side of fresh vegetables, and she nibbled at it without much appetite. When the plane began its descent into LaGuardia Airport, a flight attendant collected trays and instructed passengers to store their belongings. Denise, the cabin manager, approached Olivia once more. Denise, we've filed an initial report with corporate, but if you want a full follow-up, you'll likely need to speak with a supervisor here in New York or contact customer relations. I truly apologize again for the gate agent's behavior. Olivia thanked her, appreciative of the flight crew's concern, even if they couldn't undo what had happened. The landing at LaGuardia was a bit bumpy, typical of the swirling winds around the city. At the gate, passengers shuffled off, grabbing their carry-ons. As Olivia stepped onto the jet bridge, she felt a moment of relief to be off the plane. She usually loved flying, but this journey had been overshadowed by negativity. She made her way through the terminal, noticing the city's frenetic energy even in the airport. The plan was to hail a cab or ride-share into Manhattan for her meeting. Before she could do so, her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus had come through. Marcus text. What do you mean, someone pushed you? Are you okay? Call me ASAP. I'm up now and I want details, she sighed. So much for letting him rest. Dialing his number, she cringed at the muffled background noise as she walked toward baggage claim. Marcus, Olivia. You all right, Olivia? I'm fine. It was just some gate agent being completely unprofessional and pushing me aside when I was trying to board. She recounted the story in brief, including how the flight attendants handled it. Her husband's voice hardened with every detail. Marcus. I can't believe someone at my airline would do that. Are you absolutely sure it was a Sky Nova gate agent? Olivia. Yes, his name badge said. Gerald Anderson. Marcus. I'll handle it. But first, are you really all right, Olivia? I'm okay physically. Just shaken up. I've never had something like this happen before. Marcus exhaled audibly, a sign of his anger barely kept in check. Marcus. I'm going to call HR, the regional managers, and basically everyone. We have zero tolerance for this kind of behavior, especially physical aggression. Send me your itinerary details. I want to make sure I have all the specifics. Olivia promised to forward everything once she got settled into her hotel. She ended the call feeling a mix of relief that Marcus was taking it seriously and anxiety over how big this might get. Heading outside, she flagged a taxi into Manhattan, hoping to compartmentalize the morning's incident for now. Yet as she stared out at the passing skyline, she couldn't help but replay the humiliating moment in her mind. What if she had lost her balance and fallen? What if she had been hurt? Why had Gerald singled her out? Back in Hong Kong, Marcus paced in a plush hotel suite, the city's neon lights glowing behind him. He was tall, athletic, and impeccably dressed in a tailored suit. Yet beneath that polished exterior, anger boiled. He was fiercely protective of Olivia. They had built a life together that championed respect, humility, and kindness. After concluding his call with Olivia, he wasted no time. Despite the late hour in the US, he dialed the direct line of his top human resources executive, Linda Delgado. Marcus, Linda. Sorry to call so suddenly. I have an emergency situation. A gate agent named Gerald Anderson physically pushed my wife during boarding on Flight 276 out of Atlanta this morning. Linda, who had been with Sky Nova for almost 15 years, had never heard Marcus sound so livid. Linda startled Mr. Carson. I'm shocked. Are we certain it was Gerald Anderson? Marcus Olivia confirmed the name. She's not one to lie or exaggerate. I want him suspended immediately pending an investigation. I also want the gate's security footage pulled as well as any witness statements from passengers or staff. Linda. Understood, sir. I'll start the process right away. Normally we'd wait for a formal complaint. But given the gravity, Marcus, this is a formal complaint. I'm the CEO and this is my wife who was harmed. Let me be clear, if it's proven that he acted in this way, he's finished at Sky Nova. Also, that kind of assault may warrant legal action. Linda. Absolutely. I'll coordinate with the airport's management and our in-house legal team. I'll give you regular updates. Marcus ended the call, but his fury remained. He gazed at the cityscape of Hong Kong, thinking of how proud he was to expand Sky Nova internationally. Yet none of those achievements meant anything if the company's own staff disrespected and mistreated passengers, especially his wife. He felt torn. Part of him wanted to be on the next plane to the US to handle it in person. But his Hong Kong meetings were crucial for the airline's expansion. Besides, he trusted Linda Delgado to handle the internal aspects swiftly. With a heavy heart, he resolved to stay put for now and quell his anger with purposeful action. Meanwhile, Olivia's taxi ride to Manhattan took her through congested avenues and bustling streets. She checked into a boutique hotel near Midtown, changed into a sharp navy blazer to appear more corporate for her meeting, and headed to the commercial building where the negotiations would take place. The meeting itself was crucial. She represented a local Atlanta non-profit, hoping to buy a small office space in Manhattan for outreach programs. The real estate deal was complex, involving multiple stakeholders. Olivia tried to focus, but the morning's incident clung to her thoughts like a stubborn shadow. 2 hours later, the meeting ended with a promising arrangement. Final figures would be drawn up, but both parties seemed satisfied. As Olivia rode the elevator down, her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Olivia answering. Hello voice. Good afternoon, this is Carol from the Sky Nova Customer Relations team. We understand you experienced a serious incident at our Atlanta gate earlier today. Olivia's stomach tightened. Word traveled fast. Olivia. Yes, that's correct. Carol. First, on behalf of Sky Nova, let me extend our sincerest apologies. We'd like to open a formal case and get a statement from you about the gate agent's behavior. Our CEO has also been notified, and we are taking this matter very seriously. A wry smile tugged at Olivia's lips. If only Carol knew whom she was speaking to. Yet she decided not to reveal her identity as the CEO's wife. She would give an unbiased account. Olivia. I appreciate that. I'm willing to give a statement. However, I'm currently in New York on business. So is it possible to do this over the phone? Carol. Absolutely. I can record our conversation now if you have a few minutes. Standing near the building's lobby, Olivia stepped into a quieter corner. She recounted every detail: Gerald's rude dismissal of an elderly passenger, his refusal to address her questions, the humiliating push, and the subsequent tension aboard the plane. Carol, I'm so sorry you went through that. This is definitely not how Sky Nova trains its employees to behave. We'll investigate thoroughly. If the evidence supports your account, the consequences for Mr. Anderson will be severe. Olivia. I appreciate that. Thank you. She ended the call feeling marginally reassured, yet the day's tension still pulsed in her chest. She decided to walk through Central Park for a bit of fresh air before returning to her hotel. While walking, her phone rang again. This time a familiar voice boomed through Marcus Linda's already suspended him. There's video footage from the gate area. It clearly shows him pushing you and you stumbling. Olivia stopped in her tracks, a wave of relief mingled with renewed anger. Olivia, good. At least the evidence is clear. Marcus. Are you sure you're okay, Olivia? Physically? Yes. Mentally, it's been rough. But I'm fine. Marcus hesitated. Marcus, I'm coming home early. I'm cutting this trip short. Nothing is more important. Olivia, Marcus, your expansion meetings. Marcus. They can wait or be handled by my team. You come first. End of story. Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes, though she refused to let them fall in the middle of Central Park. She murmured her thanks and ended the call. For a few moments, she stood among joggers, dog walkers, and couples meandering through the park. She inhaled the crisp autumn air, reminding herself that this too would pass. She wasn't powerless. She was strong, and justice would be served. Back in Atlanta, Gerald Anderson ambled into the employee lounge with a cocky stride. He had finished another shift, fully expecting to clock out and head home. As he checked his phone, he noticed multiple missed calls from an unknown number. Just as he was about to leave the terminal, Linda Delgado, the HR executive, approached with 2 security personnel. Linda Gerald Anderson. Gerald, raising an eyebrow. That's me. What's this about, Linda? I'm Linda Delgado, VP of Human Resources. You're required to report to the HR office immediately. These officers will escort you. Gerald's face paled. Murmurs from other employees in the lounge spread instantly. The tension was palpable as Gerald was led away. Seated in an austere conference room, he fiddled nervously with his tie beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Linda. We have an open investigation into allegations that you assaulted a passenger this morning at gate F12. Gerald. That's ridiculous. I barely touched her. She was in my way. Linda. There is surveillance footage, Mr. Anderson. We see you pushing the passenger. We also have multiple witness statements. Gerald's bravado faltered. His mind spun as he realized the seriousness of his actions. He tried to muster a defense, some excuse about how the passenger was blocking the path, but Linda cut him off. Linda, effective immediately. You're suspended without pay. We'll conduct a thorough investigation, but given the evidence, it's likely your employment with Sky Nova will be terminated. You could also be facing legal repercussions. He stiffened, knuckles turning white against the edge of the table. Gerald, legal repercussions. Look, maybe I overreacted, but I was just doing my job. People crowd the gate. You know how it is. I didn't mean to hurt her. Linda's gaze was unwavering. Linda. Whether you meant to or not, you used physical force against a passenger. That alone violates multiple company policies. Moreover, the passenger in question has every right to press charges. Gerald slumped, the gravity of the situation sinking in. He knew his career was likely over. Linda handed him a written notice outlining the terms of his suspension, then nodded to security. Linda. You'll need to leave the premises immediately. We'll be in touch regarding the final outcome. Gerald left the room, escorted by the security guards. Shame and fear gnawed at him. The walk through the employee lounge felt like a gauntlet, everyone watching, whispering. He had prided himself on being a strict gate agent, thinking it showed authority. Now that attitude had cost him everything. After 2 days of meetings and a successful contract signing, Olivia made her way back to LaGuardia for her return flight to Atlanta. The thought of passing through another gate agent's scrutiny made her uneasy, but she reminded herself that the airline was already taking strong action. Sure enough, her check-in and security process were uneventful. As she approached her departure gate, Coincidentally, another Sky Nova flight, she noticed extra staff on hand, each wearing welcoming smiles. A gate agent recognized her name on the boarding pass and immediately offered an apology on behalf of the airline. Gate agent, different person. Ms. Carson, we want to personally apologize for the incident you experienced in Atlanta. We promise a comfortable, respectful flight today. Olivia nodded graciously. She boarded without issue, settling into her seat. The flight was smooth, and she felt calmer this time. Upon landing, Marcus had arranged for a driver to pick her up. She spotted him the moment she exited security, holding a sign with her name. Relief washed over her at the familiarity of home. Outside, the warm Atlanta air enveloped her as she climbed into the car. Marcus was already waiting at home, having arrived just a few hours earlier from Hong Kong. She could hardly wait to see him, to finally feel safe and comforted in his presence. Olivia walked into the foyer of their house, a spacious but cozy home with tall windows letting in the Georgia sunlight. Marcus was there in a blink, wrapping her in a hug so tight it stole her breath. Marcus, I'm so sorry this happened. I've been working round the clock to make sure the investigation is done right. She leaned her head against his chest, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne. Olivia, thank you. All I want is to ensure no one else goes through the same ordeal. They moved to the living room where Marcus had set a platter of fruit and fresh lemonade. They sat on the couch, arms intertwined. Marcus Linda says he's suspended pending termination. There's footage and witness accounts. He can't weasel out of it. Olivia pressed her lips together. Olivia, it's unfortunate it had to come to this, but it's the right thing. Marcus rubbed her back gently. Marcus, we might face the question of pressing criminal charges. Linda says you have enough grounds given the video evidence of the push. She paused, tension bristling through her shoulders. Olivia, I don't necessarily want to drag it through the courts. I just want him held accountable. He shouldn't be in a customer-facing job if that's how he treats people. Marcus nodded, respecting her stance. Marcus. All right then, we'll finalize his termination and ban him from any future Sky Nova employment. I also want to increase sensitivity and diversity training across the airline. This can't happen again. Olivia's eyes shone with gratitude. They talked late into the night, discussing ways to turn this negative experience into something that could improve the company's culture. Days later, Gerald's termination papers were signed and processed. Word spread among Sky Nova employees that the CEO had personally intervened due to an assault on a passenger. Whispers grew into rumors, and rumors grew into the realization that the passenger was, in fact, the CEO's wife. Some employees felt Gerald's fate was sealed from the start, but the evidence was indisputable to most. He had physically shoved a customer. No airline policy could excuse that. Linda Delgado convened an emergency meeting with gate agents at Hartsfield-Jackson to reiterate the company's zero-tolerance policy for harassment or physical aggression. Sensitivity training was mandated for all staff at every hub. The gravity of a CEO's wife being the victim only highlighted the need for immediate reform. Gerald, now jobless, found himself in a swirl of legal notices from the airline's attorneys, who demanded he refrain from speaking publicly about the incident. His mortgage loomed, and with every passing day, he realized the magnitude of what he'd lost. Gerald Anderson stared at the screen of his laptop, sweat beading along his temple, as the 10th job rejection email of the week appeared in his inbox. Thank you for your interest, but after careful consideration, we have decided to pursue other candidates. The words blurred as he scrolled through his inbox, each line a reminder that his once stable life had unraveled beyond repair. Skynova had not only fired him, but made sure he wouldn't work in the industry again. Though the termination had been processed quietly, the airline world was a small one. News had spread especially after the viral video clip surfaced on TikTok. The footage, shaky but clear, showed Gerald pushing a black woman at the gate. It had been recorded by a college student in line, who posted it with the caption, "Gate agent manhandles passenger. For no reason is this what flying." Has come to the video gained traction fast, racking up thousands of comments and shares. By the next day, several aviation forums had picked up the story. Within the week, it had reached major industry blogs. Gerald had tried to ignore it. It'll pass, he told himself. Things blow over. People forget. But they didn't. Every job he applied for, whether with Delta, Southwest, United, or even regional airports, turned him away. Background checks flagged the incident, and no HR department wanted a lawsuit risk. Even baggage handling roles and call center positions refused him. Eventually, he stopped applying to airlines altogether. Bills piled up. Rent was overdue. His phone buzzed with collection notices. The fridge was nearly empty. The eviction notice came quietly slipped under his apartment door, like a final insult. 30 days. He stared at the letter, his chest hollow. For the first time in his adult life, Gerald had to ask for help. He called his older brother a truck driver in Macon. They hadn't spoken in months. "Gerald, hey, I'm going through something. Lost my job and things are tight. Brother." Long pause. "You mean the job you lost for pushing a lady in front of the whole damn airport?" "Gerald, you saw the video, brother. Everyone saw the video." The silence was sharper than any insult. His brother finally mumbled that he'd see what he could do but didn't promise anything. Gerald knew then he was on his own. In desperation, he emailed Linda Delgado, VP of HR at Skynova, the same woman who had read him his suspension. His message was long, desperate, filled with contrition. He blamed stress, said he'd been going through personal issues, and pleaded for any second chance, any role, even cleaning the lounge floors. To his surprise, she replied, but not with comfort. Linda's email was brief and professional. She had forwarded his appeal to leadership, she wrote, but the decision would ultimately rest with Marcus Carson. And it did. Gerald didn't know Marcus had read his email 3 times. The CEO stared at the screen. Olivia's trembling voice still vivid in his memory. He remembered how she had tried to stay calm, how she didn't use her privilege, but was still humiliated in front of dozens of strangers. He thought of all the passengers who might have been mistreated by Gerald over the years, who had no influence, no video evidence, just a bitter memory, and no justice. Marcus replied firmly, "Mr. Anderson, I acknowledge your apology. However, given the severity of your misconduct and its public impact on passenger trust and safety, Skynova will not be able to reinstate or rehire you in any capacity. We wish you the best in your future endeavors." That was the end of it. Gerald stared at the email numb. Something inside him cracked. He had already sold his television and pawned his watch. He hadn't eaten a proper meal in 2 days, and now he had to face the full weight of what he'd done, not just to Olivia, but to himself. For years he had told himself that being strict at the gate made him efficient, that passengers needed to be put in their place, that he was just doing his job. But somewhere along the way, he'd stopped seeing them as people. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had shoved a woman who turned out to be the CEO's wife. Yet Gerald realized that it could have been anyone, and it would still have been wrong. What hurt most wasn't the job loss. It was the realization that he had become the very kind of person he used to resent. Bitter, dismissive, cruel. Karma hadn't just struck him. It had dragged him into a mirror he couldn't escape. In the weeks that followed, Gerald found himself couch-surfing, occasionally sleeping in his car. His savings evaporated. Old friends ignored his texts. His pride had shattered into silence. And then one afternoon, while waiting in line at a local shelter for a meal, he looked up and saw her. Olivia. Still graceful, still kind. She was volunteering at the front desk. Their eyes met. In that frozen moment, Gerald felt everything: regret, shame, sorrow. He opened his mouth to apologize, but she spoke first. Her voice was calm, not cruel. Olivia. I hope you're doing better now. He nodded, throat tight. Gerald, I'm sorry. I truly am. She studied him for a moment, then offered the gentlest gift she could give, forgiveness without invitation. Olivia, I hope you learn from this. I really do. She walked away. Gerald stood still, a man broken but maybe not beyond redemption. For Olivia, healing didn't begin with silence. It began with action. In the weeks following the incident, once Gerald's employment was officially terminated, Olivia found herself unable to return to life as it was. The memory of being shoved aside, both physically and symbolically, lingered in her chest like a bruise that wouldn't fade. She didn't want pity, and she didn't want revenge. What she craved was change, and Marcus, ever her anchor, listened. Let's not just fire someone, she had told him one evening, as they walked hand in hand through Piedmont Park, the setting sun casting warm golds across the lake. Let's fix the culture that allowed someone like him to thrive in the first place. That single conversation birthed something bigger than either of them imagined. With Marcus's full support, Olivia partnered with Sky Nova's internal development team and external consultants to launch a new training initiative titled Respect at 30,000 Feet. It wasn't just a seminar with slides and videos. It was an immersive program built to address emotional intelligence, implicit bias, communication under stress, and the importance of empathy in high-pressure customer service roles. The curriculum included role-playing exercises, real-life testimonials from marginalized passengers, and feedback loops that allowed employees to speak anonymously about the company's blind spots. Olivia even volunteered to be a guest speaker, sharing her experience, but never revealing her relationship to the CEO. Her sessions struck a chord. She would begin calmly sharing the outline of what happened at Gate F12, how small dismissals escalated into outright hostility, and how easily someone's dignity can be bruised in moments of unchecked power. Olivia never said Gerald's name. She didn't have to. During one session, a young gate agent stood up and said, "I've been that guy. Not physically, but I've dismissed people like that. I never saw how it built up. I do now." The moment nearly brought her to tears. Marcus ensured the program was rolled out not just in Atlanta, but in every Sky Nova hub from Los Angeles to Chicago to Dubai. It became part of onboarding and recertification for every employee, from ticket agents to pilots. Internal surveys showed a dramatic increase in reported morale, and passenger satisfaction scores began to climb, with many citing a noticeably more respectful and attentive crew. But perhaps the most important legacy was the culture shift among employees. A whisper turned into a voice that everyone matters, and that no act of disrespect is too small to call out. Despite all this, Olivia never stepped into the spotlight. Internally, there were quiet rumors. Some staff whispered that the unnamed passenger from the Gerald incident was more important than they had realized. But no one confirmed it. And Marcus kept it that way. No press conferences, no insider leaks. "This isn't about revenge," Olivia told him once when a board member suggested they do a media campaign around the training program. "It's about reflection. Quiet, lasting reflection." And it was. At night, when she looked over the reports, the feedback emails from new hires, or the thank you notes from veteran staffers who admitted they'd never had this kind of training. Before, she felt something unexpected. Peace. For the first time since that humiliating moment at the gate, she was no longer the woman who was pushed aside. She was the reason no one else would be. A few weeks later, Olivia sat on the balcony of her home, gazing at the setting sun. Marcus joined her, handing her a cup of tea. The hush of the neighborhood was a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded. "Marcus, you all right? You seem lost in thought." She smiled softly. "Olivia, I'm thinking about how quickly life can shift. One minute I'm heading to a meeting, and the next I'm dealing with this whole fiasco." He squeezed her hand. "Marcus. But look what's come of it. A new training program heightened awareness, and maybe we prevented future incidents." She nodded, sipping her tea. "Olivia, it still hurts to think that someone felt they could shove me aside like I didn't matter. It makes me wonder how many other people he might have bullied who never said anything." Marcus frowned. "Marcus, probably quite a few. But you said something. And sometimes that's all it takes." She leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his presence. They sat in a comfortable silence, pondering how adversity can sometimes yield the greatest lessons. Months passed, and life resumed a semblance of normalcy. Gerald Anderson faded into the background of Olivia's thoughts. The Respect at 30,000 Feet initiative launched successfully, with employees reporting improved morale and better passenger feedback scores. One day, while Olivia was volunteering at a local homeless shelter, she recognized a disheveled man sitting in the waiting area, eyes downcast. It took her a moment, but she realized with a jolt it was Gerald Anderson. He looked thinner, exhausted, and completely unlike the arrogant gate agent who had once pushed her aside. A swirl of conflicting emotions passed through Olivia. Pity, anger, and a strange sense of closure. She contemplated walking away, sparing them both the humiliation. But something in her heart compelled her to approach. Olivia Gerald. He lifted his eyes, confusion morphing into shock. "Gerald, you're that passenger." She nodded, lips parted, unsure how to proceed. He swallowed hard, his voice trembling with remorse. "Gerald, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I lost everything after that. I see the world differently now." Olivia studied him, searching for sincerity. She saw regret etched in his face, the haunted look of someone who had learned a bitter lesson. "Olivia, I appreciate the apology. I truly hope you find a way to rebuild your life, and I hope you treat people with more compassion if you do." Tears glistened in his eyes. He nodded, unable to form more words. She quietly walked away, leaving him with that moment of grace. For Olivia, it felt like the final chapter in a painful episode. For Gerald, it was another chance to reflect on how his actions had led him there. They never crossed paths again, but the memory served as a stark reminder that empathy matters. A single act of disrespect can set off a chain reaction, but so can kindness and accountability. And in the end, Justice had been served in a way that forced Gerald to face his own prejudice while sparing Olivia from further harm. And there you have it. What began as a routine flight at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport exploded into a cautionary tale of power, prejudice, and karmic justice. Our gate agent learned the hard way that when you mistreat someone, especially if that someone has strong moral values and the hidden influence to hold you accountable, your entire world can crumble in an instant. Yet from the ashes of that painful ordeal rose a beacon of change in Sky Nova Airlines, reminding us all of the respect and dignity every passenger deserves. If you found this story gripping, enlightening, or simply unforgettable, be sure to like this video, share it with friends who love a good dose of real-life drama, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that reveal the hidden truths about everyday encounters. Thank you for watching, and remember, treat everyone with kindness. You never know who they might be.